Hey folks, Matt from Art of the Image here. So the big news in the world today is the Nikon D4 and D800. And basically, a lot of people I think are trying to decide, do I need a D4 or do I need a D800? A lot of people would probably like to buy both of them, but if you're like me, you can only afford one of them. And so I'd like to just clarify what the big differences are between the two. In all, the focus systems, the bodies and whatnot on these two cameras are virtually identical. Build quality, same AF system, all those type of things. The big three reasons that I think you would choose a D4 over a D800 are, I'll lay them out for you here. The first one is obviously the sensor. 16 megapixel sensor, has a native high ISO range of 100 to 12,800 with a high 2 boost of 204,800. So this is Nikon's high ISO flagship. From all the samples I've seen, from the testing I've seen, and from what I've heard people saying, this camera will be equal to the D3S as far as high ISO image quality, if not a little bit better, maybe half a stop or a stop, and you still get an extra 4 megapixels. So the big thing there is the sensor. Obviously a different sensor, 16 megapixels. And number two is frames per second. So the D4 does 10 frames per second, and that's in comparison to the D800's 4 frames per second. So if you're somebody that shoots a lot of sports or a lot of fast-moving things where you need to shoot fast, have a high frame per second rate, you want a machine gun as they say, then the D4 is your camera. It's a fair bit faster, 10 versus 4 frames per second. The third thing, the big difference on these cameras is that the D4 is a bigger, heavier camera. And basically it's got like what we would call a built-in grip, whereas the D800 you have to get an accessory grip to get that vertical and horizontal shutter situation to be able to spin the camera and still have an extra trigger. And basically it's lighter and smaller on the 800, bigger and heavier on the D4. A lot of people actually prefer the bigger, heavier cameras because they feel they can hold them for lower shutter speeds better, and the weight gives them some heft to the camera. Myself, I'm probably more of a lighter camera guy. I like the smaller, lighter cameras these days, but it's a personal preference. So those are the big three reasons, big three differences that you might choose the D4 over the 800. The first is the sensor, 16 megapixels, high ISO sensor, king of the hill high ISO. It's going to be on par with the new Canon flagship, if not better. And basically 16 megapixels is plenty for just about anything you're doing except perhaps studio work. So the sensor and the high ISO qualities. The second thing is the frames per second, 10 frames per second, very fast camera. And the third thing is the size and weight. The D4 is the heavier, more larger camera, so bigger and heavier. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be back with reasons to buy the D800 over the D4. And stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date with what's going on in the world of photography. We'll be back with some new articles and some new videos. And happy shooting.